Ready? Chair Weber, I call the Urban Renewal Agency meeting to order at 9:08. We do not need the Pledge of Allegiance since we did that, so roll call, please.
Thank you. Director Dumbrell,
Present.
Director DeForge,
Present.
Director Hagedorn, present. Director Redding, present. Director Warrington, present. Chair Weber,
Present.
and I sent Director Papen a text. I'll let you know when you're first.
We have the consent agenda in front of us. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
We have a second.
That was Director Dumbrell.
Second. Seconded by Director DeFord. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Do we have any public comment?
I didn't receive anything prior to the meeting, so no.
Okay. And with that moves us on to a presentation from Elaine Howard on the sunset date amendment. And it's like she's on our screen.
Good evening. I'm Elaine Howard. I met you a couple of months ago when I did the Urban Renewal 101 for you. Your city manager asked me to review your plan and prepare a potential amendment to remove the duration provision from your plan. In doing that, we spoke with your attorney, who also reviewed the plan and agreed with me that a duration provision could be removed through a council-approved amendment. Your plan requires that a council-approved amendment be approved by a resolution by the agency and then a resolution by the city council. So the action that you have before you tonight is a resolution to remove the duration provision in your plan. By removing that provision, your plan doesn't terminate at a specific time period. It terminates when you have reached your maximum indebtedness. That is the statutory provision, and that is what most urban renewal plans in Oregon have as a duration time frame. It is the only thing that is legally required. You aren't required to set a set duration provision. So this change would just eliminate that duration provision from your plan and eliminate also any reference to council approved amendments. And that is because you have your urban renewal agency, which is the same board as your city council. And so having a council approved amendment is just repetitive. You're having the same group vote on the same thing. Those council approved amendments were put in urban renewal plans when the urban renewal agency was comprised of people either in addition to city council or other than city council. So that provision is just cleaning up your plan a little bit to reflect the composition of your urban renewal agency being the same as the composition of the city council. So
Can I jump on the question? Does that prohibit us from making changes to our URA board? Does it now have to always be the city council?
It does not prohibit you from doing that. If you changed your board, you might want to reinstate a council approved amendment, or if you're thinking you might do that in the future, you could adopt this resolution, but take out the section that refers to a council approved amendment.
Does anyone have thoughts on board composition? Is that something you guys want to think about, or are we we firmly committed to the council as the URA board.
This is Director Dumber. I think with the challenges of getting seats filled, I don't really feel inclined to make any changes at the moment. I think that would be something to revisit when we are able to fill all our board seats with in a timely manner.
Director Weber, I think at some point adding people makes sense, but to me, it probably makes most sense to get through this renewal process, get into the subsequent year, and then maybe reconsider where we're at. But once we get a better grip on what kind of meeting schedule we have, all those kind of things, how much time it's gonna take from the council, you know, it'll probably unfold a little more as we change this, so that would be me.
Please continue, Elaine.
So do you have more for us then, Elaine?
Only to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, so Director Weber, as far as changing the boundary, adding new projects, hopes and dreams or whatever changes, is that limited after we do this? How do you, if we want to expand the boundaries, whatever?
This has no impact on that whatsoever.
Okay.
Director DeForest, is there any risks that we need to know about, any pushback from our partner taxing authorities about removing this provision?
I would not know of any. That would go to your executive director.
Okay. So you don't, Director Weber, you don't see this as being a problem getting this approved by all the relevant groups, this extension?
They don't have to approve it. I'm sorry to interrupt it. I can't see you, anyway, they don't have to approve it. The only people who have to approve it is the agency tonight, and then your city council has to adopt a similar resolution. The other taxing districts have no vote on this.
So it sounds like what Lane is recommending then is us to make a motion to approve the resolution. Does anybody have any more specific questions about approving the resolution? And if we don't, then do we have a motion?
Director, here, I move to adopt resolution 2335, URA to adopt a proposed North Plains Urban Renewal Plan Amendment.
Director Dumber, second.
We have a first and a second to adopt the resolution. I guess we're ready for then. All in favor?
Yes, if there's any comments.
Any comments?
Additional discussion. and
Any
then a
comments
vote.
or discussion in regards to the resolution? I see.
Trista just came online, I think too. Trista just came online. Excuse me, Director Papen just came online and she wants to hop on.
Hello, thank you so much. I think I had the incorrect meeting link, but I am here, so thank you so much.
So, Director Papen, we have the resolution that's been first and a second. So are we ready then for the? We're ready?
Did she have any comments or?
Any,
Director Papen, you got the packet, okay, right?
For the URA,
Yeah.
I only have the city council meeting, the EDC packet.
Okay. Then Chair Weber should probably reread the resolution so she knows what she's voting on.
reread the entire resolution?
No, not just the title.
Just time.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second in regards to resolution number 2335 URA, NPURA plan amendment of the sunset date. Good?
So I just want to clarify. So this is just changing or extending the sunset date for the URA. Is that correct?
Did, Greg, go ahead.
Shall I help with that last part? Director Papen, so this resolution actually does two different things. The first one is the major issue that you all have been looking at, and Elaine has come back with a text amendment in the North Plains Urban Renewal Plan, and that is to eliminate the July 2026 duration limit of the plan. So that's in there, that's the big one. The other one, though, is in the text of the plan, there is language presently in it that this resolution, if approved, would change. And what it would change is when this plan was adopted, it has language in it that has to do with council needing to approve decisions with the pretext that back in 2006, urban renewal boards weren't always strictly council. And North Plains's urban renewal board is all city council, but in the future, if non-city council members are added, or if there's any changes to the composition of the board, that can happen in the future, of course, but in the plan right now, as written, there's language that has there's text that has irrelevant language about anybody non-city council involved in decision-making. And so this resolution does eliminate that irrelevant language as part of this resolution, if that makes sense.
Understood. Thank you so much for that clarification.
Sure, no problem.
We have a first and a second on the resolution. Are we ready to?
Can I just ask one quick question? It says it's gonna remove the July 2026. Is there another date that it's going to replace it then, or is it just wide open?
No, it's up until the maximum indebtedness.
Right, so yeah, so when you have an urban renewal plan and district, you have a set maximum amount of debt or indebtedness that the district, the agency can take on. And without a date of duration limit anymore, with approval of this resolution, the backstop in terms of how long the agency can do things is strictly when it hits that a maximum amount of debt taken out, but we're not there yet.
What is our number?
Elaine, Elaine has been working on that, but I think,
Actually, Tiberius Solutions has been working on that, and I don't have that number, but I know that they are working on that for you.
Are we ready to call for the vote? We good? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Elaine is here. I'd requested,
Hold on. So you need to call the vote. So the motion carries or fails.
the motion carry, all in favor?
Yeah, everybody said aye.
Yeah, I did that.
So motion
So then
carries.
you say,
Motion carries,
Thank you.
motion
Yeah.
carries.
yeah, you need to say that on the record.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. We thank you for coming, Elaine. It was mentioned, since you're here, any other general questions about the URA that people might have of her? Like one question I think I'd asked you before, Elaine, if we wanted to, one of the projects that I had brought up and a few others had brought up is perhaps putting money towards a renovation of a recreation center here in Jessie May. Jessie May is a block away from the current boundaries. Is that potentially a feasible kind of project that we could bring into this next time period of the URA?
It is feasible. I believe you have not added boundary to your area yet, not added any acreage. Excuse me. So I believe acreage wise, you could add that project in. You may spend money on a recreation area or urban renewal money on that, a recreation facility. There's kind of a fine line in the statute about public buildings and whether or not you can have offices or anything like that in a recreation facility. Drink a little. So if you proceeded with that, you would want to define what it is you're wanting to put into the building and then check with legal counsel to see what the provisions are. There are some things, you know, if you have a public building with like offices for City Hall, you would have to get approval of other taxing districts to be able to do that. So it really depends on what it is you would be putting into the building. And at that time, you then would know whether or not you could do that spending on your own as the urban renewal agency, or whether you would have to get approval of other taxing districts first.
But if we're just redoing what we have now, we're sitting in an old gym. If we're redoing an old 100-year-old gym as a recreation center without any offices, that is a project that could certainly be discussed as an option.
I would think so. I'm not an attorney, so I can't give you legal advice, but just my general best practices advice would be that yes, that would qualify as a project that you could do. You would have to put it within the boundary first and add it as a project.
Other kind of questions for Elaine? Director Weber, again, one of the things we were talking about tonight is just trying to bring the directors more up to date on costs associated with running a URA. Is there kind of a standard when you look at a URA and you're bringing in whatever, 500,000 or $1 million? Is there kind of a framework of how much money we should plan on spending to run it for a year in terms of administrative costs and hiring consultants and things like that?
You know, that's a great answer. Question, and the answer is never specific. It really depends on what you're doing. So at this point, you're looking potentially to do a 5-year action plan and potentially an amendment to your plan, and those things do cost money. In terms of paying for like administration of your city staff, that really depends on what city staff, which city staff are spending time and how much time they're allocating. So some cities actually just track that. They keep track of that amount of time and bill it to the urban renewal agencies. Other cities allocate a percentage of the time of like a finance director or a city manager. There are a lot of different ways. The one thing that you need to understand is that any money that you pay to consultants or subtract for administrative costs does get counted against your maximum indebtedness. So it is less money that you will have to spend on projects. Most cities do spend some money on administration. So I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I just always want people to understand that the consequence is it takes away from that maximum indebtedness.
Thank you. Other questions for Elaine? Anyone? If hearing none, I think that was Bill. That was the agenda, was inviting Elaine to be here. So we thank you for coming and doing your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we will move on to unfinished business, the economic analysis work, and that was something you had, Bill?
Yes, so let me, thank you, Chair, let me open that presentation. Wait. There we go.
However.
It's like a 5-step process to start a PowerPoint, go to its slideshow stage and then get back to Zoom and share it. So sorry about the delays every time that happens. Let's see. This. Share. Okay. Here we are. Okay, thank you, Chair and Urban Renewal Board. So a few meetings ago, a gentleman by the name of John Lagarza with Healthy Sustainable Communities, a consulting firm, visited with you all about the idea of, as you're updating planning for the North Plains Urban Renewal Agency, his recommendation was you should give consideration to economic analysis. You know, don't just go through the process of identifying projects, public or private, without some kind of economic rationale behind them to help screen or you know, to kind of help prioritize. And so he walked through kind of different things that you can do that can be more economic, financial feasibility involved for figuring out how to prioritize your projects, not just picking them purely subjectively or however, you know. So what I've done is I've worked with him on the different aspects of a scope of work that, you know, he felt that if you move forward with something, these are the things you should really be considering. I'm going to walk through the list and then I'm going to kind of talk about each one that he pointed out is worth discussing. As soon as I get it over there. Okay. So his recommendation is there are kind of 5 big things that he thinks is worthwhile for you to consider doing in terms of economic financial analysis to help prioritize projects and moving forward with URA efforts. One is going through and really putting together a good glossy kind of put together a really good idea of what's been happening with the URA at least since 2020, probably not earlier. That's kind of when the agency reactivated and got more active in projects. So to really kind of trace what's been going on over the last 5 or 6 years and turn that into kind of a marketing piece of some kind to let the public know this is what the URA is, this is what it has been doing recently, and here's what are some of the projects that are ongoing, that sort of thing. Then number 2, a community and stakeholder outreach effort he felt was very important, and that is use that history of the URA recently to go out and talk. And then just kind of identify what the community thinks, identify what the community and partners know might be opportunities, obstacles or challenges that the urban renewal district might have, kind of, you know, go through that process. The third was a market assessment of URA opportunities. Actually kind of take a look and see kind of what the supply and demand is for different types of uses, kind of do analysis down to a tax lot level, and really kind of give close examination to where individual parcels or aggregation of parcels really kind of from a financial feasibility, market feasibility standpoint. Yeah, you probably should really consider those as projects, but these others over here, they seem like they would be great to do, but you're digging a big hole before anything happens, sort of thing, to help kind of think about it that way. The fourth thing is there is some opportunity for a little bit of industrial development in the existing URA. And he recommended kind of a business recruitment intelligence and industrial strategy for some of those properties as part of this. So that's number 4. The number 5 is really just kind of the final report, and then kind of marketing brochures that the city can use, the EDC can use, the city can use to market sites, investment opportunities in an informed manner, backed up by the URA moving to include some of these prioritized projects for investment to make happen. So that's the idea there. Those are the 5 big things. So what I wanted to do was kind of one by one. I kind of dug into what the potential cost would be for each of these 5 things. The first one, URA accomplishments since 2020. To dig into that, really kind of tell the story of the last 5 to 6 years, all the work on it, and then kind of coming up with a really nice marketing brochure. All in is probably a $6,000 to $10,000 expense.
6 to 10,000 to who? Is that hiring?
That's
Guy?
well, whoever. That's the
Whoever.
range. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Got
when we'll go out and
Better.
it will bid. It'll be an informal bid. It's below the formal bid amount at the very end of this. But a consultant, this task alone would, depending on the consultant that we hire, it would probably cost $6,000 to $10,000 to do this one step alone.
Just to like produce a principal or just a PDF.
Well, they'd be going through, they'd be going through, past reports on project expenditures. They would be going through and identifying what businesses moved in, how many jobs did they create, all that work, interviewing the businesses, so all that work added up.
But realistically, we're talking about somebody who would bid everything together, right?
Correct. But the point of this is, do you like this task? Do you like it this extensively? Would you want it to cost $6,000 to $10,000? Or would you want to do something that's less extensive? What I want to do is get a better understanding from you so that I can go out and bid this.
Right.
And if you all like this as scoped, then I know you're okay with something landing somewhere on this task alone of $6,000 to $10,000. And my plan was, and we don't have to do it this way, but my plan was just to walk through each of the steps so you get an understanding of what the cost is of each one. There's one in particular I think is extremely worthwhile for the city to do, but I don't know that a URA feasibility study is the place to do it, and that might be a place to cut. But that would just be a suggestion based on reviewing everything. But that's the intent here is, here's what the scope of work would look like, whoever we hire, and here's the range of cost. Do you love it? Or do you think some of it seems a little unnecessary? That's what I'm looking for feedback on.
Yeah, let's go ahead and we got to keep moving through them all and then we're gonna,
Back and
come back.
Sure. Community stakeholder outreach. Here's the scope of work. Coordinate with partners, including the chamber, visit to Walton Valley, anybody else that we work with on ECDev. Identify barriers or obstacles to development, urban rural district wide. Do we have physical infrastructure problems? Do we have access problems? Do we have a lot of absentee property owners who don't necessarily prioritize active use or better active use of their property? All those sorts of things. And then this step in the scope actually results in very specific new grant or funding program recommendations based on identifying those obstacles. This step all the way through as described would be $7,000 to $10,000 by itself. Number 3, market assessment of URA opportunities. This is where a consultant would go and take a look at all of the different properties in the urban renewal district and identify the vacant ones, underutilized ones, which ones make sense from a size perspective to redevelop at some point, which properties could be assembled with purchases, smaller ones that could be assembled, buying them and buying properties right next to each other to make one larger consolidated piece of property. A quarter acre here, a tenth of an acre there might become an acre that could then be something. So all that work. And so kind of a very micro analysis, looking at the district property by property and identifying where the city might have the lowest hanging fruit, all the way to very challenging efforts from a property perspective. That effort alone is $10,000 to $13,000, depending on who we hire. Now, there are 3 or 4 consultants that do this sort of thing. Mr. Lagarce is not the only one. So there would be a range depending on who bids and who successfully wins it. Business recruitment, industrial strategy. I will say right now, I think citywide, this is a key thing to think about. I don't know, but most of our industrial land is not in the URA. And we have properties that are underutilized, that are industrial, not in the urban renewal district, that this type of study would benefit from. We have very little industrial land in our urban renewal district. So I don't know that this task per se should be a priority, but it's up to you. I just want to give my spin on it, that just flat out isn't much industrial land in the district. But really kind of a drill down specifically having to do with industrial land, industrial strategy, parcels that are key, particular infrastructure that would be unlock industrial specific types of users. And then a business recruitment strategy working with some of our partners like Business Oregon, what have you. That's a $7,000 to $10,000 effort, depending on who does it, for this part of the scope of work as stated, just so you know.
Director DeForest, can I jump in with that?
Yeah.
But does any of that overlap with TGM? Like, aren't they thinking about industrial lands, and if we waited for TGM to complete, couldn't we leverage that?
The big answer is yes. So the process that the TGM grant, the concept planning grant is going through is based on the citywide economic opportunities analysis that has been adopted. And in it, there are a bunch of different targeted industries. There's a bunch of different information about the types of sites, the infrastructure they need. What we don't have in there, and so the big answer is yes, the process will address some of this. But what we are lacking, that process won't touch on is, what specific, within the existing city limits, some of these sites, what type of investments might the city need to make? What kind of marketing should the city be doing or could even be doing? And so the emphasis of this scope would be more beneficial for property we know we have in the existing city limits, existing urban growth boundary. The concept planning process more broadly answers some of these questions for land that might be brought into an urban growth boundary expansion. We kind of have this kind of addresses a more pressing land we already have set of questions, is how I would put it. But at the same time, we don't have a lot of industrial land in the district, in the urban renewal district. Remember, it's Glencoe and then commercial. In a very narrow strip around commercial and, Glencoe. So there's not a lot of industrial in either of those areas. So this task does a lot of good for the city, but my recommendation would be to not do this as part of this study and consider going out at some point. It would be worthwhile to do something citywide, because a URA study just wouldn't touch on many industrial properties.
Okay.
Sorry, one more question.
Yeah.
You referenced the economic opportunity analysis, was that what you called it? As the basis for this, would the council have the ability to set new parameters for any sort of economic analysis as opposed to an artifact that was created several years ago?
Well, more broadly speaking, council can adopt new studies and documents as it likes, pay for them, and then adopt them. The EOA is more intended to inform 20-year long-range planning. So yes, that is, that's been a topic of conversation before and is best reserved for a regular city council meeting. But that study and the findings of that study can always be updated or what have you. But for this right here, this would be kind of more of a shorter term investment planning effort within the existing city limits is the best way to put it. And we don't really have anything like that for existing city limits. So that's that part of it. And then the final thing is take all of this, turn it into a master document and report to inform URA planning, updating, project prioritization, and any boundary changes or what have you, but use all of this information to inform updated URA planning, as well as use all of this to create marketing materials, marketing strategy to kind of go out and help attract development interest to sites within the urban renewal district. Based on understanding what kind of investments and planning need to happen for those sites. this portion of the report, the full scope would be by itself $7,000 to $10,000, depending on who we were to hire to do it. So combining all of those scope elements, if we go out and hire somebody to do all of this as described, it could cost the URA $40,000 to $60,000. But again, that's as described.
Director Weber, could this person also help us kind of be the boots on the ground person that goes to businesses, talks to them about what kind of grants they would be available for them, meets with them, gets the grants prepared, brings them to us? Actually helps with the whole process.
So, good question. So half of that is scoped in this, going out and meeting with the businesses and understanding what the obstacles are that a grant would help with.
And actually helps them know which ones they're eligible for and could actually help them then get the application done.
No, because at least for this scope of work, this process is meant to bring back to you new grant programs to approve. It would then be up to staff to offer and market the different grant opportunities and meet with businesses. And we already get that interaction with businesses. We just don't have new applicable grant programs to propose yet. So this process would help inform those new grant programs.
Good number. So yeah, I think that would be a second phase. I think that would also be something that we would want to look at as we do the website upgrades we need to do with this. Is making that available, and also to that end, as we get the park/communications person, they can help market some of these things as well. We might, and ideally, the Chamber of Commerce and the Downtown Business Association work with them too.
So really what thank you, Director Dunbar. So the main thing here is I wanted you to see all of this work as he described it, as described here, would potentially cost. There's a lot of work there and it will take a few months to do. But that's kind of that's the sticker price we're looking at. And I just kind of want to get a better sense of, do you like the scope of work as described or not, or?
Director Hagedorn here. I have a question. Mr. Reed, if you were to prioritize any of these, which ones do you think would be the biggest, most urgent?
So thank you, Director Hagedorn. That's a good question. So in my mind, the value, the core value of having somebody do this ultimately is to help inform your strategic plan, your 5-year strategic plan. Okay. In that scope of work, and we have a contractor, by the way, so I was going to get to that in the update later, but in that scope of work, there is a project prioritization step. And the core of this work, like I said, the consultant that the 5-year strategic plan project prioritization step, that consultant doesn't do real estate feasibility and planning, development planning and all that sort of thing. This consultant would be that. And I think there are elements of this that would be really good to do to kind of identify, well, we really like this project, but it's going to cost us $3 million and goodness knows if it's ever going to happen versus, that sort of thing. So in my view, I think if you were to just get to the essence of what would be most useful to assist you, I think number 2, the community and stakeholder outreach would be key in understanding from the businesses the obstacles that we could turn into new grant programs based on those dialogues. And then just new other programs based on what kind of infrastructure or public improvement obstacles there are. So, but that number 2, I would say, number 3 is that tax down to the tax lot. Identification. Look, here's really where your opportunities are. If you're going to do if the URA is going to invest in a redevelopment project, rank them by low hanging fruit to difficult. That's 3. And then I think 2 and 3 for sure and then elements of 5. I mean, it would be great to have a marketing strategy and things to kind of go out and market.
Yeah.
Because we've done the work on where the opportunities are, and then we can think about future real estate purchases and marketing and doing new things. I would say 2, 3, and most of 5. I think I think all the work going into and a glossy kind of saying, what have we done over the last 5 to 6 years with the URA? It's great information, but it doesn't necessarily inform your forward-looking planning. It's backward-looking.
Yeah,
And then I would say that, again, the business recruitment and industrial strategy, that's really targeting industrial users. We have things to offer industrial users, but the URA, the district itself, has a very limited amount of industrial land in it. And so that would be a lot of money to spend on just a few parcels,
well, we could also like partner external agencies for
essentially.
coaching and stuff.
Yeah.
Documenting.
Director Weber, on a practical level though, couldn't we bid these out in segments and then once the bids come back, pick and choose? Would that be appropriate in this kind of bid process? So we wouldn't have to decide right now is what I'm getting at. We could get the bid back and say,
Yeah, if somebody
Is that-
does a lot of this, if you do that, you're gonna get a lot of different bids. If you bid a mass package, you're gonna get a lot of different bids than if you piecemeal everything, because everybody's looking for big number.
don't piece.
Well, and this is my 2 cents. I mean,
Well-
Bill, you have more experience. than-
Well, what I would say is, we will tend to get less expensive total bids if we put them together.
Yeah.
Because you have project management, project kickoff, project management, scheduling, all of that set up for a number of sequential steps, whereas if these are individually bid out, each one of these has a project management fee, each one of these has a scheduling cost, it does add up. And so that's my view of that.
But if I could suggest, maybe if we wanted to do a subset, if we bundle that subset, then that might get us a better price overall. Like maybe that's a better compromise, if that makes sense.
But one other thing I would say is, we can go out to bid and say, we are interested in these 5 tasks, but we are not guaranteeing we will do all 5 of these tasks, get bids on every single one of them as part of a package, but get a total cost. And then the contract that we have with the contractor will be what tasks you actually want to do. We can do that way also.
Director Weber, the other numbers thing, our current biennium has, if I read it right, $350,000 for professional services.
Mhm.
So that's where this comes out of. And what are, I mean, that's a big number, 350,000. What is that 350 supposed to already have in it? It has Elaine Howard.
Great question. So if this body moves, well, we have the strategic plan as well, but the big expense is if this body moves forward with a substantial amendment to the urban renewal plan. So you open it up and you move the boundary, you add a whole bunch of projects. You do a bunch of things that add up to make it a substantial amendment. There's a lot of public involvement in that, and that can run over $200,000. Based on what other cities have gone through.
$200,000 asking them to change the boundary.
Asking, considering changing the boundary, all the work that goes into all of that, yeah, over the course of months and different community workshops. Do you like us doing this at this property? Do you like the idea of us doing that here? You know, there's a lot of public outreach involved in that. That's what that 350 is meant to give us safe space to do something. You don't have to, but it allows, the budget is there to give you the ability to do something like that, if you so choose.
Senator Warrington, do you have timelines associated with these? Like, is number 2 gonna take a year or a month or anything like that?
Great question. So the time frame for this project would mean a number of these things are going to be done, and this scope of work would be done at the same time. But this scope of work would probably take 4 to 6 months.
And they
Based
could all
on,
kind of work separately at the same time?
Yeah.
Concurrently, or is it step after step?
Some of it is concurrent. Depending, the firm we would hire to do this typically has, you know, a number of people in it. Even, John Lagarce's firm, he has 3 or 4 people there. So you would have a team of people working on it on different tasks. So it wouldn't be purely sequential. Different things would be done concurrently.
Director Hagedorn here, to piggyback off of, Director Warrington's question. This work would be in some ways critical path or supplement, it would complement another body of work that we have going too, so that's another thing to be cognizant of.
Indeed, it's a great point. And that's also why I kind of highlighted 2, 3, and to the extent needed 5, that would give you the essence of what's really going to help your strategic plan. All the rest of it can be done as well, but
Those 3 are the core.
those 3, in my view, for informing your strategic planning and next steps, 2, 3, and 5 are what I would call the core, yeah.
Okay.
Director Weber, I mean, one of the other frameworks, I think, for everybody is to realize the bigger numbers. So we're bringing in, what, about 850,000 a year now in the tax revenue. So in order to spend that money, we have to spend some money, which is, again, the way it works. You spend money to create a system to give the money away. And I think it's important to do that correctly. My observation is we've struggled a little bit in the last 10 years or whatever to give out lots of grants. How do we get that process moving better? Part of that involves likely spending some money. Some cities hire part-time staff people. There's a lot of different ways it's done. So anyway, other.
Counselor Hagedorn here, I have no issues with this proposal and just taking it out to Casternet and getting a bid. As long as we might be able to see aspects of it that we could say, oh, that's silly and strike out at a later date. But by and large, thematically, I think it makes sense. I agree with Director or Chair Weber's sentiment.
Thank you, Director Hagedorn. This will undoubtedly, I mean, I'm pretty sure this will be over the 50, so it's the 50,000.
Yeah.
So this is, you'll get to really peek under the hood on this one, yeah.
Director Warrington, sorry, would it make sense to give 2 different bids, one with all of them, all 5, and another one with 2, 3, and 5?
That's a good question. The way I would do it is actually sort of like, I did the strategic plan. I sent out, I sent out a request for bids from a few different firms, and I gave them the different steps that we would want. I didn't say we would be doing all of them, and I asked for a budget for each one of them individually as well as in total. And I think that that's probably the way I would do it here as well, because we could still pick. But we want the information about each one of them, and then all of them combined, and then it's, you know, based on your priorities, we can pick based on that. But the main thing is to get all of the information we want from the bid process.
In the interest of time, are people okay with letting Bill move on this? We have
I get a verbal.
Yes.
Yes.
all in favor?
Yeah.
I don't think we need a formal motion.
No.
Director Peatman raised her hand, yes.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep moving here to the URA board. This was your thing, Bill, something about meeting.
Oh, yeah, sorry, thank you, Chair. So, yeah, so there sounds to me like there's interest in having more URA meetings and digging into more things. And frankly, the conversation that hasn't happened by the URA board is kind of more formally, how often do you want to be meeting? It's kind of been subjective as issues come up until now. but this board's getting more and more active in different things. And so I don't know that continuing to just be, I don't have a really good phrase for it, but like, if we kind of, you all might want to discuss how often you want to meet a little more formally so that we can kind of be predictable about it. But that's for you, that's for
My
you to discuss.
suggestion to you, if when we're in this really kind of heated time to get all this done prior to the end of the fiscal year, I suggested perhaps we'd agree to meet at the end of the first meeting of the month for April, May, June, 3 more times. Then we could reconsider how often we feel like we have to meet. But for now, just agree to do this 3 more times, because we're in kind of a heated moment to get this done. So anyway, any thoughts on, I was just looking for a simple way to do it. I don't think we want to talk about a separate meeting night at this point, I presume, right? I realize this is going late, but it's probably simpler than coming back tomorrow or next Monday.
Yeah, I don't know.
Are we okay with for the next 3? Do it same way? Okay. Okay. Does that cover your question, Bill?
And then it does. And then the only other part of that was, in the agenda for tonight, we have added I believe we've added a director comments section.
Yeah,
Just kind of give you the ability to kind of chime in, suggest agenda items. Or do you like having that on the agenda? Kind of like the regular council meetings is the main thing. Okay.
Okay.
Easy peasy.
We will move on to executive director report, 5-year strategic plan update.
Yeah, so, thank you, Director. So we sent out bids to 4 different firms who kind of do URA planning. Elaine Howard out of the business in an advisory capacity to Tiberius Solutions. I sent a bid for a request for proposals, a request for bids to 4 firms via email, gave them a scope of work, asked for budget, proposed budget for each of the tasks, describe the task, give us your resume, all that. We got 2 responses back, and then we internally evaluated the proposals based on different criteria, qualifications, understand the project, and then proposed budget. Then Tiberius Solutions won out. So Nick Papanek, who was here, they do have a fantastic resume on projects like this, and no brainer, understood what we needed because we talked about it with him. So it was very easy for them to write a very, very good proposal. So I'll be meeting with him later this week to kind of hammer out some of the details and then kind of get into contracting work.
So do we have a number?
Yeah, it's gonna be just short of 20,000.
20,000.
Just short of, yeah, just below.
deal.
Yeah. Yes.
Well done. Okay, so we're moving on that. We
Moving on.
formalized that that's who we got. 2023-25, this is something I asked for, the biennium URA expenditure summary, just so we can start to have an understanding of which money we have in the budget, where it goes. As we go forward, we might want to make different ways we run things. So I asked Bill to summarize. I think the main numbers are the professional services, 350,000. The other thing I asked for an explanation, there's that general fund transfer, and I think that totals like 530,000 for the 2 years.
Correct. So, thank you, Chair. I'm moving things around here on the screen, sorry. I have screen sharing going, but here. So this is basically just a summary of expenditures, for the URA. Screen was not. Anyway, so this is actually taken from and then updated the URA budget document or spreadsheet table that's in the URA budget. So I've just basically updated it for better know, we had actuals through March 31st, 2025, when you all reviewed and then adopted this budget. We have expenditures through June thirtieth and then into the 13th month that have been added to that. So I'm gonna report what that was. So moving things around. And then on the far right is just kind of for comparison, the adopted budget. So the big items, again, in the past budget and then in the current budget, the big items have just been consulting assistance with a variety of things. Over the last biennium, a lot of the professional services there had to do with testing and hazardous materials mitigation for the structures and the different properties that we have or we've bought over the last few years. And then some planning work that we've done, but that's consultants basically. And so the $350,000 in the current budget, as I kind of mentioned earlier, that's purely to give URA room to update the plan, even do a substantial amendment, as well as a variety of other consulting work that might be deemed necessary. And so far within this budget category, it's been Elaine Howard's work. And then we'll kick off Tiberius Solutions helping with the 5-year strategic plan, which will be just under $20,000. And Elaine's work came in at just under $4,000. So she was relatively speaking very inexpensive. Nick's work will come in at just under 20. So that's about $25,000 total so far. And then you all were interested in getting bids on economic feasibility work that could be $40,000 to $60,000 in total. So that puts us at about $100,000 after those 3 consultants. The rest of that is if you want to do any major, big, substantial amendment work with public outreach and get the community involved, that sort of thing, a big project, you'll have the budget to do that, is the bottom line, and that's where it would come from. We do
Is it possible, when I asked for this, I was hoping, could we just get a list of 294,000, who got what? I mean, I was hoping we could get kind of a summary of the general, whatever you call that, the invoices or. I'm just curious, because it's such a big number, who got, right? Could we just get a summary of that? Of who got what?
Well, let me check, because that's, to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure that our accounting software reports it that way, because that would actually be an accounts payable module to take a look at who the vendors were, as opposed to what type of spending it was. So what the reporting that you see here has to do with how did we account for the spending? Was it a professional services item? Was it a grant? What was it? And that's no matter who the vendor was, as opposed to if I go into the accounts payable module, I don't know that we can report kind of the reverse the way you're asking. I'll look into it, but I'm not sure. We've never really done that before. We can do a trial balance for any of these account numbers, and that will just kind of report what's happened over the course of whatever time period for that specific account number. But we have a wonky account.
Professional services, for clarification, it's all money that's paid to outside entities. None of that was paid to the city. We don't do professional services, it's all outside expenditures.
Contracts.
Yeah, I would think, I guess I'm missing something, because it doesn't seem to me like it would be that hard to give a list of who got what. I mean, Councilor DeForge, you know more than I do on this, is that. I'm just trying to understand the numbers. You know more about the numbers than.
Let's see here, I'm not familiar with the software that the city uses, but in my.
Yes.
Springbrook, yes. In my experience, I could run an EP report. And get that information.
Do we have the free module or the paid module?
We have
Okay. I've heard about Springbrook.
there's no
Maybe you could ask for a report, the top 3 or something like that, so to limit the search or something. Would that?
I mean, yeah, I mean, like, I guess my more broad answer is, I'm not sure, because I don't, and this kind of gets at the monthly financial reports question. The key issue from budget law perspective is, what's the budget? And have we spent within that and accomplished what we wanted to do? And so everything is based on what are we spending on things like materials and services or personnel, or capital projects. The question rarely, if ever, from a reporting perspective is how much did we pay this person? How much do we pay that person? How much do we pay this person? That's not typically the area of interest. So as a result of that, I'm not sure what Springbrook will let me do to tie the two together, but from a who was the vendor standpoint. So I would need to look at that, top three or all or whatever.
Okay.
So that's professional services for the most part. Okay, then there's different capital projects that have been budgeted over time. We expected or thought that there would be some updates to the urban renewal plan to actually be able to move forward on some of the downtown plan projects that were adopted in the downtown plan. The URA plan was not updated to reflect that, so we couldn't really spend money on those projects yet. So in the current budget adopted, we have $250,000 in the URA budget, assuming the URA plan updates its project list. And then we can move forward. So there's $250,000 waiting to be spent on that. The Glencoe Opportunity Area has a total of $1 million of city unreimbursed expenditures that the city can spend. That's net of any grants or any funding that we get to kind of help pay for that. So that's what's there. And then signage and wayfinding in the urban renewal aid district. We can help pay for different signs that better show where businesses are, how to get to different places in the district. And then there's an additional $500,000 in the budget to buy more real estate, but that's kind of the core of the economic analysis, is helping us determine which properties are worthwhile or not. And then I'll just kind of move to the question I think we've gotten about. Any and all transfers out of the urban renewal agency are purely for paying for personnel. Their time, Elaine kind of got at this, different cities do it differently. But staff time involved in working on anything URA, whether that's time at URA board meetings, whether that's managing URA projects, whether that's accounting for URA spending, whether that's whatever it is. And the assistant planner, and the public works director are primarily the ones who are involved in URA related activities. I think the URA pays for a little bit of one or two of our public works staff for maintenance reasons. But beyond that, it's really just city staff that are strictly doing URA related things. And we now own a lot of property and have a lot of different things we have to do with that. So that's what that is.
And do we have some sort of paper trail to, how do we justify? I mean, to be honest, 411,000 is a big number. It looks like we could hire several full-time staff. So how do we explain the numbers?
Well, I can bring you a spreadsheet from the budgeting process, but basically all of the different city staff and their total payroll cost are divided up into how they spend their time. And on the back end, people do timesheets that show how much time they put into different things, whether it's the URA or whether it's repairing water lines or whatever it is. But the bottom line is that on a budgeting basis, all the different funds and departments, different employees get allocations of their time based on how much they tend to spend doing different things for the city. And as I mentioned, it's really just city manager, the public works director, the assistant planner, and I believe a couple other public works staff people over a 2-year period is what that number represents.
I have a point, sir. We're well past 9:30 when the council meeting is required to end or require a vote. And also we're definitely way beyond like getting an interference with the city manager. So if we can reel this back in, please, and we need to move this along. Otherwise, we're going to need to vote to adjourn or continue.
Yeah, we can move on from that. The only thing to be helpful for me is just more itemization of where the money went. Glencoe update, there's really not much to say on that, right?
Just to report that we got 5 or 6, Dustin isn't here, and I was gonna ask him for the details behind this, but we got 5 or 6 different bids to clean up the Glencoe Opportunity property. And he kind of documented getting to the lowest responsible bid on that, and the person who's been cleaning the property out. Is
Do we know what that number was, or?
I believe it was just shy of 25,000.
Okay, excellent, that's going very well. Any updates on URA grant, current grant application?
We have no current grant applications, because we really only have one program. We have some businesses who have come to us expressing interest if we have new programs. And that's part of what Rowan's been using, in documenting and coming up with new programs.
So I had 3 or 4 businesses say they submitted applications, but those, in a sense, are not acceptable.
Well, we don't have a grant program to help them. Like, we don't have a grant program that helps historic buildings yet. We don't have a grant program that helps furniture makers yet. So if we don't have a program to kind of get an application, understand their costs, understand why they need that assistance, and then go through an approval process, we need that first. So that'll be brought to you at that work session, and then we can move from there on new programs.
Okay, excellent. Moving on, UGB PAC meeting update. I don't know, is there anything you're supposed to say? There's nothing on that, is it?
No updates.
Okay. Any individual things from any of our folks that they want to put on future agendas? I mean, there can be a time to turn those in later anyway, but anybody want to comment?
Just a quick comment, would anyone be open to not having a work session on days that have a already?
The work sessions are already scheduled, so we do that with the URA meeting out past. We have a couple of work sessions that need to happen.
Does anybody have a solution? I mean, I don't think the problem is this meeting's too long. The problem is the culmination of the 3 meetings.
Oh,
Do people, would this be better on a different night? Could have it be the second Monday,
it wouldn't, because that's gonna create a lot more problems for people, because we're already
right?
in enough meetings. What needs to happen is we need to get through the business more quickly.
I mean, I committed to do this in an hour. I think I'm gonna do my part, right? We started.
But meetings by council rules, they end by 9:30. Or they have to be.
Well, if the council can't end by 8:30, then this isn't work, right?
Then you're gonna have to get through the business more quickly. That's the solution. So council meetings and very meetings need to happen on the schedule.
Okay. Is it, so the 9:30 is like
It's in the council rules.
okay,
I don't have anything to add.
we will call the meeting to adjournment at 10:15.